second drop, man.
Yes, sir.
So how long was this in the making after you guys finished up with your first drop?
Like I was telling you, so after the first drop, we dropped that in January. So we were gonna originally drop it in July on my birthday. I invited you out to come do all that and do the podcast out there. I ended up getting COVID. The drop was a train wreck, like I was telling you before. I ended up getting COVID. Then COVID was like full-fledged because it had just stopped, and then like we were all not wearing masks anymore. Came back in, so now we're wearing them. I lost the money on the house because we couldn't have it at the house that we were gonna have it at the release party. And then it just kept on getting pushed back. Our distributor and manufacturer landed up switching factories actually, so that happened. And then we finally got it out in fall. This was originally spring colors, the yellow, but good thing it sort of falls in line with fall.
Right.
Yeah.
So you told me too earlier that as far as like everything just didn't go as planned. Like how did you, I guess even during the pandemic too, you had COVID as well, like as you mentioned. I mean, was there ever a point where you just kind of felt like overwhelmed with it?
Definitely. There were times where I felt overwhelmed, and I'm still a little bit overwhelmed right now, I would say. But that's sort of the beauty in it, is the struggle. Because, I mean, I just know my heart's in it right now. Because all those things that happen, and then still not selling as we expected to sell, it puts a damper on you. And I felt like giving up, but Danny, keeps me in line. He's not here right now, but he keeps me in line. A lot of people just keep me pushing. My boy Dante Landrum, he hits me up like every time we drop, and he's always just like, keep it going. And it's things like that really keep your head in line.
COVID's been a big theme too. Like, what was that like, having that and all the symptoms?
That was crazy. I lost my my mom's asthmatic and diabetic, so when I got it, I literally had to sit in my room. Like, she would come drop off food plates at my doorstep, and I was going crazy. I was getting cabin fever, and then like when she would leave the house, I'd sneak out here in the backyard and just walk laps and like try to clear my mind and like ground myself in the backyard. But it was intense for sure.
I can only imagine, because like even at the beginning of COVID, when we're all like kind of forced to quarantine, like we're social creatures, like people forget that about humans.
Yeah.
And it, to tell us to stay inside, a lot of people struggle with that, especially like all the kids with high energy. You just think about all those like high energetic people, And
I feel like it's putting a damper on. I feel like it's definitely putting a damper on people's mental health right now, because people want to execute their plans and get things done right now.
Yeah.
And same thing. Obviously, like I'm trying to do, you're trying to do. I'm sure it had a damper on certain podcasts that you were trying to put together and things of that nature. And it's a lot for everybody. But I mean, thank God, I told you that I took the step towards sobriety, so that's been a big factor in really helping clear my head and getting all my thoughts in line and getting all my plans. And not thinking in a negative nature.
Yeah. So tell me about the reason behind Sleep Sucks as the new logo for this second drop.
So my cousin is narcoleptic, and I hadn't known. And I wanted to definitely help her out. And I just wanted to figure out how to correlate it with the brand. And it does play a big factor on your mental health. She's in high school, and kids can be cruel at this time. So I think we actually briefly talked about it too in the last podcast towards the end. But yeah, like it was crazy to know that she was going through that, and how understudied narcolepsy is. Like, there is no cure for it. And when I dropped this, funny enough how things worked out, it was actually World Narcolepsy Day. Yeah, I believe it was the 22nd. And a lot of people reached out, a lot of really kind people reached out, and it shows you that there are still good people in the world.
Oh yeah.
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 And it gives you hope, and that's like the beauty of this brand. I mean, I met you, you know, you're a good dude. I've met a whole bunch of great people that like really have kept me in a positive mind state, and I just hope I could keep that with them, you know.
Yeah, and it works both ways though, right? Like I feel like there's that one saying where it's like you attract the energy that you want to have in your life, right? And I kind of always like didn't really buy that. I feel like the more of like, hey, if you're actively trying to, whatever it is you're trying to advocate for, whatever it is you believe, or whatever your ideals are, or morals are, you start like actively pushing that and like just living like your life that way, like honorable, you're gonna meet other people like who are on the same path.
But I feel you when you say that you attract that energy, but you said that you didn't really feel that way
When I was younger.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
So,
like I remember seeing that. Like,
do you have this thing where you feel like you're a people watcher?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I do that too.
Yeah.
I'm really outgoing if I know the group that I'm around.
Yeah.
But I was just telling my boy Dante this. We were talking about it yesterday. That I sit and I watch people because he's like, you're really personable and people like you. But he said, I can't figure out why, you know, he's trying to be nice. But I really like to sit around and watch people, and it's weird. I almost take it as like I'm a performer. Like I like to feel out the room and see how the room's doing.
Yeah.
But then going back to what you were saying about, you know, feeling like that way when you were younger about there aren't good people or it's like negativity going around. I think it was just me watching and examining like my surroundings at that certain time.
Yeah. I think you can like read a room well, right? That's like the expression, right? If you can kind of gauge where your energy is needed. Because I could be like the funny guy around a certain group of friends because they may be lacking that like comedic relief, right?
Yeah.
But then
I tend to do that one too. That's my favorite angle.
Yeah. But if you're already like in a group of like funnier people than you, then it's like, all right, well, maybe I don't need to be the funny guy. Maybe I could be like the GPS person, or like, I don't know, like the person who kind of
guides the room.
Together.
No,
Guides the room. So there's like all kinds of different roles you can play in different friendships.
And you definitely have to do that too with the podcast.
Yeah.
Let's say somebody's lacking on their end, right?
Yeah.
And you got to sort of guide the conversation for them and get it out of them.
Exactly.
Yeah. I noticed that too because I told you that we were doing that whole little thing on the side. And that's really helped me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it helps with just gauging people and natural interaction. I have a bit of a social anxiety, so now if I could maintain that child in me where I did have that, you know, that watching eye and be able to incorporate it into my day-to-day activities and natural interactions, it helps a lot. And I feel like I'm sort of hitting a breakthrough on this whole mental health thing. But I'm still learning. I'm still open to learning, and I think that's how a lot of people should be. You just have to be open to all angles and really see it out for what it is.
And honestly, I felt like, because we're talking about like COVID and this whole like quarantine, like honestly, I felt like through this, since March, I've probably gone through like 3 different like major shifts where I thought I had it figured out, the whole mental health thing, and then it kind of like drastic change, kind of scrambling, and then I figure it out, another drastic change hits, scrambling. And then right now, I kind of feel like I'm in the groove right now. I've kind of figured it out. And I'm just kind of like already in the back of my mind, like, fuck, there's going to be a drastic change coming soon,
anticipating that.
Yeah,
no, that is, that's something I dealt with a lot when I was younger, and still now it's expecting the worst.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you don't give yourself the benefit of the doubt saying that good things can, you know, just keep happening for you. And that, or at least that's what I was doing. I was like, you know, why is everything going good right now? Something bad is going to happen.
Yeah.
And, that's my neighbor. But yeah, yes, we're doing a podcast, fool. Huh? You cut that out, leave it in, whatever you want to do.
Yeah, it's all good.
But this fucking guy. All right, so we'll wrap it back in. We were discussing expecting bad things to happen to you. And that's the way I was, and the way I got over that was when I feel like that's happening, when I feel like I'm in this groove, what I tell myself, and maybe you could, implement this into your routine. It's just, I sit back, I do my breathing exercises, and I really tell myself, good things can happen to you.
Yeah.
You don't,
Yeah.
there's no reason, I'm not a bad dude. Like, I don't
Yeah.
hate anybody. I don't do things of that nature. So I just like to reinsure myself that, good things could still happen to me. And that's how people have to be. I mean, I think it's weird. People almost want bad things to happen to them.
Yeah. And like, it's been tougher this year, I think, for just a common person, this year, whatever may have been taken away. If you're an athlete, your sport was taken away. If you're a sports fan, your sport was taken away. You can't go to games like that. And I just feel like one thing after another was taken away from people this year, where they really kind of had to adjust and find like alternate hobbies, alternate things to get into, other things to keep their mind occupied.
Definitely.
But it's a challenge for sure.
Oh yeah, because I was like, okay, I'm gonna knock out all these different designs, I'm gonna do all these different drops, and then it was just like, because shit keeps changing every week. Like, we have some sort of new guideline, or some outbreak is happening, or the decrease in the COVID infections are like, there's a decrease in the COVID infections, so then everybody thinks everything's good, and then that funny enough, the natural thing happens where something bad happens. So like we were just talking about, and it's I mean, life's crazy, but I don't know, the state that I'm in right now, I just feel like I believe good things could happen for me, and I'm just keeping on that positive mindset and sort of riding on it. And then even when bad things do happen, I'm taking it as a lesson, and that's been a real good tool for me too as well, to understand that once you've already came to the fact that bad thing has happened, as long as you grab the lesson from that bad thing that's happened, you can move on with your life in a positive manner.
And that's the tough thing, is like reflecting. I mean, that's one thing I do like appreciate. I have like friends now that will kind of ask me like, hey, like, how you doing today, or like and they'll ask me like, what was your high of the week or low of the week, that kind of thing. And I listen to a few podcasts that kind of have something similar, like a segment where he interviews people, but he always starts off with the high and the low. And I think that's interesting.
That's a therapy tactic.
Yeah.
Because that's what they do when I was doing my therapy with my therapist.
But it's interesting to actually like kind of pose the question and actually like force yourself to think about it. Because when you are in like that slump, and you're just thinking bad, or like nothing good could happen to me, when you point out the high of the week, you're like, all right, well, that's not, like there is some stuff to look forward to, and there is some stuff that could possibly turn it around. Things aren't always going to be like this. It just sometimes, because it's hard to snap out of it. I've noticed, like, when things spiral downwards, chances are they spiral and continuously spiral.
And especially if you're alone in your thoughts, if you don't have somebody, asking you like how your friends were saying, then you tend to stay in your thoughts. Because I just got in an argument, and my friends are usually used to me being super upbeat and talkative. And when I'm in that position, like, if somebody's not saying something to me, I will sit there and literally just like marinate so deep into my thoughts and drag myself so deep into this hole. And that's the only way, like, somebody asking you, how you're doing. And especially me as an only child, that shit gets hard, because oftentimes I'm alone in my thoughts. But like I said, it's been easier taking that step with therapy. I have this thing where I'm able to admit my mistakes, and I feel like that has saved me from a lot of bad things happening in my life. And I don't know, I feel like a lot of people lack that. A lot of people lack being able to admit to their mistakes. But that's just people. We have our flaws.
And I know, at least me, like I developed growing up kind of a shitty mechanism to kind of blame others, right? When it was my mistake, I would try to deflect it onto other people. You know, like, damn, if only they did this, or if they did this, and it's tough. But I feel like when you hold yourself accountable, like, that's where you see the most growth too. As far as like, all right, well, what are these? Because if you can admit it to yourself that you admitted these things, and then if you're really like not happy with those things, like if you're a good person, then you're like, all right, well, I got to actively change this,
Yeah.
and it's a step-by-step process. You're not going to just change by the snap of a finger.
Oh, definitely.
But it's like anything. Like if you want to lose a significant amount of weight, you're gonna have to put into work. It's a process. Same thing if you want to like.
Tell me what am I getting big, dog? Nah, I'm just playing. But no, I feel you. Yeah. It begins to get to be a lot, and you really have to take a step back and really get every different angle on it. And that's why sometimes I feel like I get lost in my conversations, because I'm thinking about different outcomes of where the conversation can go, or different outcomes of where I want the conversation to go as well.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking of all of those. And sometimes it's a burden because you tend to get lost in your thoughts a lot.
Yeah.
But it also is a blessing because you could see it from other people's perspective about how this may benefit them or benefit you or benefit the both of you.
Yeah.
So it tends to be a blessing and a curse.
Yeah, I think a better word for it is anticipating, right?
Yeah.
And I know like the biggest thing in like sports is like, because I coach,
Mhm.
teaching kids not to anticipate, right? Because if
Yeah.
you're already like programmed, like when you line up at the line of scrimmage, I'm gonna do this move or whatever, chances are it's not gonna work out exactly how you want. You have to react. That's the thing in most sports. No play is gonna go picture perfect, or most of them aren't. And so the more better you can improvise and kind of react on the fly, the better you are. And it always kind of sounds dumb, but like I remember like in baseball, it was like a coach told me like the less you think, like the better you'll be. And it's like, what? Like you're telling me not to think? But obviously you practice something that becomes so instinctual that actually when you don't think in the heat of the moment, when there's people watching, whether it's in front of millions, thousands, or just a couple of friends, it's different. You can kind of just naturally.
No, I agree. Even relating towards the brand, I anticipate so highly. Because I dropped this, I wanted to help my cousin, and it was for a good cause. So my anticipation was just super high. I was like, this is going to do great. I love the design. The manufacturer that we got it from and distributors that we got our clothes from were a lot better this time. And I was telling Danny, I was like, bro, we're going to sell out. We're going to sell out. We're going to sell out. And he always keeps me in check. He's always like, just calm down. You're getting too excited. That's his favorite thing to tell me. You're getting too excited. And sure enough, it didn't go as planned. And like you said, if I just would have had more of a clear thought, I don't think it would have brought me down as much as it did when I didn't see that it did well.
Yeah.
But, I mean, like I said, we have that. I showed you the designs for the new stuff coming out, so I'm really excited about that coming out too as well. I'm pushing on.
Yeah. Going back to the second drop, narcoleptic, you said your cousin's narcoleptic. For those of you who don't understand what that is, could you explain a little bit more in detail?
Yeah, so there are severe forms of narcolepsy, sorry about that, and then there are, not as severe forms. But it's basically falling asleep unwillingly. Some people get it to the point where you just feel tired all the time. And this is to my knowledge from what I've learned from looking it up. Some people fall asleep on the drop of a dime. So then with that, some people fall asleep at the drop of a dime. Some people fall asleep just randomly throughout the day, are just super drowsy.
Yeah.
It affects your mind state because now you're depressed, or the feeling of constantly being, what's the word? I was thinking of a better word for tired. Groggy, exhausted.
Yeah.
So you're getting a bit of depression, and then you got to figure, for my cousin at her age, still being in school, you got to figure you have other kids judging her. To my knowledge, from what my uncle had told me, is like other kids think that she's getting some special privilege because she has to go to the office. She's gonna fall asleep regardless.
Yeah.
So it's crazy. You got to deal with that, and then you got to figure. Now you have to have some form of anxiety because you're expecting yourself to fall asleep, especially after you're diagnosed with that.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's understudied right now, so there's no official cure for it. they give you like Adderall and things of that nature to keep you up, but you got to figure that's just fighting one bad thing with another bad thing.
Yeah.
You feel me?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, she can't drive a car. She can't do a lot of things that, you know, kids strive to do and things of that, and it hurts you like when you hear about it.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I figure why not use my platform to try to spread some positivity and help her see that she's not alone in this. Yeah.
Has she mentioned Sleep Sucks, and was that the inspiration behind having that on the brand?
The Sleep Sucks was sort of my thing. She didn't know that I was going to do it for her. It was a complete surprise. I told her, and when I told her, she didn't even really know what to respond. She was just in shock.
Yeah.
And then she called me back and she's like, I'm sorry, like, I'm so thankful. And it sounded like she was crying. So it was beautiful. It was a beautiful little moment we shared.
Yeah.
And Sleep Sucks was my thing. The design for this particular t-shirt, the snooze button t-shirt, is I've always lived with my grandparents. This is actually my grandfather's house. When I lived in Vegas, I lived with my grandparents too as well, and we always had these clocks laying around. And one day I was just looking at it, and I was like, I should incorporate this in. And my boy Lou, who does my designs for me, he executed it super well. And yeah, that's how I got that one. And then the other one is the Scoundrels Supply Sleep Sucks, which is the words coming down. It was just one of the designs I had in my back pocket that I was waiting to put out on something, so that works out. And yeah, we had those with the Darcy, and then this is just the hat with the SS on it for the Sleep Sucks and Scoundrels Supply.
Right.
So it cross-correlated. Just my little play on things.
Yeah.
I like to get creative.
Yeah. But that was cool. I remember when you first were starting to post it before you guys even had dropped it. I kind of related for a different reason, because I know, at least for me, I devalued sleep. I think from like 17 to like 20, I was like one of those on my grind people. And I definitely like overworked myself to the point where like I probably have like some longer like lasting damage that I did to myself mentally, physically, everything. But I hated sleeping because I didn't know how to pace myself with my goals. So I wanted to do everything all at once and stay up till like 2 and wake up at 5 and do it all over again. Yeah,
you take it for granted. And if you don't do that, then you are frowned upon.
Right.
You're frowned upon as you're not ambitious. You're not taking advantage of all your opportunities, and that's horrible. That's just something that's been implemented into our heads, and that we're programmed to think that we're not out here getting it, but that's something that we need.
Right.
And something I want to get off my chest too, that I learned from this beautiful young lady. She reached out to me, and she was doing the whole narcolepsy awareness, the World Narcolepsy Awareness, and she had stated that even though they do fall asleep unwillingly, that sleep isn't sleep for them. It's not rest. It's not rest. It's not what they need. It's like I said, it comes unwillingly, and they don't feel rested after it. Like they don't feel like when you get that good 8 hours sleep in, they don't feel like that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they still wake up groggy, and it puts a damper, and it's sad, that nobody's reached out and tried to figure out something or some sort of, cure for it.
Yeah.
And that's why I just wanted to speak on it and things of that nature. And then, so I want to get into this a little bit. That's something that you could talk about, that you should bring awareness to.
Right.
Because there was also Suicide Prevention Day. And I actually was talking to Danny about this, and he said, not everything should have awareness come to it. And I feel that's true, because I really wanted to put something out for that, but at the same time too, I was thinking like, when you're in that deep state of mind, you don't want to, when you're on the, that path.
Yeah.
You don't want to you don't want people coming at you and thinking there's a certain way to come at that.
Right. You don't want to be baby, I guess you could say. Is that right?
I don't know about babied. I don't know. It's such a sensitive topic because everybody's different, and it's the topic that hits home for me because I have friends, that have gone that route. But it's, you can see, but you have to be told. You have to be babied by the right people, and you have to be told by the right people that you matter. Definitely. And sometimes it isn't a brand that's going to do it for you. It isn't going to be something that's publicized that's going to help you change, or a movie that's going to help you change. It's that one interaction that you're looking for, whether it's from your father, your mother, somebody that's close to you, a friend that's close to you. And that's who you need to hear from. That's who you need to get babied by. Because you haven't gotten that connection with them, and that's what they're looking for. So yeah, I just wanted to get that out there too. I definitely was aware that there's a lot of opportunities I missed out on. The Mental Health Awareness Month too. It sucks that we're sort of slacking it at these times, but it's understandable too, at least on my end, because of everything that's going on. I don't want to make excuses, but it's the cards that I was dealt, and I'm okay with that. And, just move on, go and get better.
Yeah, and there's always going to be those months next year too, so you might catch it on the next year's cycle or the year after that cycle. Yeah. I know I had a similar feeling too at the beginning of quarantine. I think for 2 months, like both of my jobs were canceled, like we weren't working, and I kind of had this unrealistic expectation that I was gonna find and devise some sort of business plan to where I didn't have to go back to those jobs, right? I could just whether it's podcast or something else, I would have a stable business model to where I was like, all right, I could be independent. Fuck those jobs, at least the regular jobs I didn't like, and it didn't work like that. And next thing you know, we're getting the call to go back the following week, and I'm kind of like, shit, I haven't even, started that. Or I'm not even a tenth of the way in. So I remember having those discussions with me too. Is you just gotta pace yourself, having that expectation to do something like that is pretty unrealistic, you
were anticipating too as well.
That too, yeah.
And I agree. And that's where I have this weird line too. I have these high expectations, and then they say there are those people that, just make that your all, grind it out, do that. And it doesn't work like that for everybody. Not everybody has that breakthrough. That's a 1 in 10 breakthrough, or 1 in 100 breakthrough that you're gonna make it off of, make that dollar off of 15 cents and just make that breakthrough and and just be the star that you thought you were going to be. That's very rare. It takes a lot of different components to get there. But I guess my only form of advice would be to keep steady, though. You could still keep steady. You don't have to get rid of the dream just because it didn't work out, in that little time frame. Because that was my thing too, and I think that's a lot of things with kids our age is we have this high expectancy of ourselves, and if we don't get it at that current moment, then boom, we're done. We're on to the next thing. But you could still keep drive. You could still, keep your drive and keep going towards that goal. Just don't have that crazy. Don't expect it to come. You feel me? Don't have it planned out. Have it. I'm contradicting myself. Have it planned out. Expect the worst. Don't expect the best. Expect the worst, and then make your plan from there. Then you figure out how to grow from that hole. Expect that hole, because the hole will come. The hole will definitely come. And just expect to work out of that hole, no matter what's going to happen. And then I feel like that's when those breakthroughs happen.
Right.
When you're coming from that, you're on your last breath, and now you really are putting, in a sense, you're all into it because your whole mind state is in that. Because now everything that goal has put in your head it's affecting you mentally. So now you're waking up, you're thinking about that, it's in the back of your mind. And then that's when those breakthroughs happen, because the way the world works, I feel like, is when they see that you have put your heart into it, then they start coming around to it.
Right. 100%. I think it's interesting though that I forgot what you said earlier. Hold on, I drew a blank.
You get
You mentioned something earlier that kind of really connected with me. I think another way to word it too is like when you do want to plan it out, but plan it out like in baby steps first, right? Like we sometimes think like bigger picture, like, oh, we got to get this done all at once.
Yeah.
But then if you kind of like break it up into like, you know what I mean, like pizza, right? Like it's a big pizza. We're not gonna eat it all at once.
Yeah.
But if you cut it up to slices, you start with one slice and then you work your way around the pizza, and eventually you'll get to that whole pizza.
But when you're thinking about the pizza, you're thinking about eating the whole thing.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what you can't do because it's super unrealistic.
Right.
Because I mean, it's even something simple as that.
Yeah.
Like, because sometimes I'm like, damn, I'm so hungry, and then I'll go to Chipotle, order like quesadilla, burrito bowl, bag of chips, Sprite, and then I only finished like a quarter of the burrito bowl. I was like, damn, I was so hungry, but and that's how funny, like that's how relatable it is. That's funny that you mentioned that. That's crazy. Like that's how simple it is. If you could think about it in a food manner, like you gotta spread out your appetite and figure out how hungry you really are. Yeah.
And you mentioned something too about like factors or expectations and us anticipating. I think it's a lot of external stuff too, right? I think a lot of times like our parents' generation, you know, whether it was minimum wage was different or just, you know, the economy was very different. It was more affordable though for them to move out in California in the young 20s and still be able to afford school. Because like there's a whole bunch of statistics where, you know, you work a minimum wage full-time job, like you were able to afford school back in the 80s, and then somewhere in the 90s it kind of skyrocketed unproportionately to where it's not the same now. And then they're pushing you to do school. I felt the pressure right after school to like move out, do your own thing, and it's like, well, fuck, like in this economy, it's kind of tough, and especially in the industry that I want to get into, you're not always going to be guaranteed something like, you know, it's not an engineering job. I'm not going to get 6 figures right away. So it's something that definitely you kind of have to like learn to lay out these baby steps, because I just feel like in this time that we're living in, maybe more so than ever, like things aren't going to come as, I don't want to say they came easier to previous generations, but I just think there's a lot more challenges in our.
So I'm gonna riff off that. There's 2 ways. Okay. There's going to the parental thing. We'll start on that. Going to that. There was a plan that could be simply executed.
Yeah.
It's you did this. For example, this house, my grandpa was enrolled in the army or enlisted in the army. Black Hawk, World War II. He took all the steps, got this house. Like it was all those steps were laid out. Now people that are still if you enroll in the army, you could still sort of do it, but I mean, to get a house out here in California, definitely not.
No,
So it's like, it's just the plan was more simple back then. You could do this. You could start at point A and have the plan to get to point B, and you could get to point B that easily. As long as you follow the plan, that's all you got to do.
Right.
And now with us, it's like our plan A starts here, and then we got to take all these different steps, and then we get to point B, and point B isn't even guaranteed because all the different factors that may go into play, you know, with the economy and everything going right now, and it's just not as realistic it's not as simple for us as it sounds. Like the kids that go to college, even the kids that have a quote unquote plan, some don't even, like I said, when they get to point B, then it's like, now what? Now you have your degree, and they're asking you for they're asking
5 years of experience.
Motherfucker, I just went to school for 4 or 5 years, you feel me? Like, I feel bad for them. I mean, I took that route for a little bit, and I'm still paying back on a loan. And that's like school. I enjoy learning, definitely, but school, the way it was set up for me and the times that I was going through when I was younger, I knew I wasn't going to take the school route. I just knew that wasn't going to be me. And I have a 9-to-5 too, as well as running the brand right now. So I have a little bit of a plan, but like I said, there's no set in line plan. Like, I mean, I could enroll in the army, but I don't really know about all that. But yeah, it's just, there's no, in inline plan for us right now at this time being. And then riffing off of what you were saying too about so you were going the parent route, and my thing is too, I think, I don't want to steal my boy Dante's line, but he had told me yesterday, he said if we didn't have social media, a lot of the kids that have money right now wouldn't have money, or something of that nature. And what he meant was, like, some people's drive are purely based off of their insecurities and wanting to get to that financial state that they see these other people in, and they think they're happy because they have that. And it was crazy. It was really eye-opening for me when he said that, because I was like, that could be true. Like, that is very true. Like, a lot of people, if we didn't have social media and seeing, like, these, you know, people making money off of these certain things or being at this higher standard, we wouldn't have that high expectancy of ourselves.
Or even jealousy.
Yeah, jealousy, insecurity. And it all goes into play. I mean, like Kanye said too, riffing off of him, like, it's just, we're getting programmed, like, day by day to think in a certain manner or think in a certain way, and it's crazy. Like, you step back, and for the people who see this, they call them crazy. And I have felt like people have looked at me like that too as well. But then you start having those genuine conversations, and you start seeing that there are people like you and that understand it. And like I said, it's just a reminder that there are good people still left in the world, and that still don't abide by the rules that, you know, the higher powers that be have programmed us to follow. Yeah,
kind of breaking, like you said, breaking from the norm a little bit. And I've always found it challenging because I'm not money motivated, right? That's like never, I don't really care if I'm a millionaire, billionaire, whatever, you know, and that's some people's goals. That's not mine. But I do find it difficult, maybe especially because it's Orange County, it's like California. It's kind of hard to at least move out on my own and kind of have my own space, right? Yeah. And right now I'm pretty fortunate. Like, I have 2 jobs that I really love, you know, both working with kids, different age groups, but it's like, okay, like, this is nice. And ideally, if I could do this comfortably, like, this would be super ideal. But in the back of my head too is like, okay, but I have to have at least like some sort of like third side hustle, something else to make money from.
Isn't it shitty that doing the good thing isn't paid?
Yeah,
isn't paid.
Yeah.
Doing the right thing isn't paid.
Right.
Isn't it horrible?
Yeah. So I'm like, I'm kind of, you know, I have to find either a night job or something else to do on the side just to earn some more money, because I do want to move out of my parents' house, and I don't want to constantly be there and have to deal with whatever the drama that they're dealing with. Yeah. And, you know, like, I'm sure that's a lot of people's struggles, you know? Oh, for sure. And they're forced into shitty situations where they're working 2 jobs. And I think that's the biggest eye-opening thing, like, working with the kids, is like, not so much the kids, like, you hear about their parent scenarios, and like, they're working 2 to 3 jobs while having 2 or 3 or 4 kids, living in an apartment under, you know, overcrowded, that kind of stuff. And their kids still want the, you know, iPhones, just like any other kid. They're busting their ass to take them to Disneyland or whatever it may be. And it's like, yo, like, when does it stop? You know, I guess it's just kind of like almost like a not a never-ending cycle, but it's just like this constant like chase for something. And at least in this area, I feel like in Orange County, it's like a grind, you know? Yeah. In central Orange County, right? Because Santa Ana, Anaheim, Garden Grove, that's all very different from Lake Forest and all that stuff, you know?
No, I feel that. You want kids?
Eventually, yeah.
I figure you work with them a lot, so.
Yeah, not in like the next 3 or 4 years.
No, I get you. The only reason why I ask is because I do believe highly in what you're saying. Obviously, the kids are seeing the kids around them with the iPhones and things of that nature. I've had the beneficial side of that, and then, you know, not the beneficial side. Being that, because like my pops, he had his major gains back in the day where he was up on money, so I would have like the newest thing back in the day. And then when my parents, he would have highs and then he would have lows, and this is all going to correlate at the end. But he would have highs and he would have lows. And and I'm talking about money wise, financially. And when he was low, then it was like the whole family had problems. Yeah. And when we left, what he was doing, I couldn't stay with him because of what he was doing. So I had to come out here and move with my mom. But what I'm saying is, going back to what you were saying about the parents, is and what I feel like I'm going to instill in my child, because this is what I wanted, was that my dad could have dropped what he was doing, took a lower income job, trained me that these bigger things aren't gonna be what brings you happiness.
Yeah,
you know? Because for me, spending time with him would have brought me happiness.
Yeah.
I didn't need the PS4. I didn't need all of that shit.
Yeah.
I mean, am I thankful that I got it? Of course, 110%.
We're good.
Are we
Yeah,
good?
we're
Okay.
good, yeah.
Start talking about my dad, the wind starts blowing hard and shit. But it's just, I think it's something I'm going to instill in my kid. Like, yeah, of course I would want to be financially stable and be able to buy them anything they want. But at the same time, too, I want them to learn what a family should be, which is, communicative, loving, being able to quality time. And I think that's what we lack a lot of.
Yeah.
Especially our generation too, like just family time. I don't know. It seems like family time isn't really a thing anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you get that sense?
Yeah, with social media and everything, like everyone has, their devices, smart TVs. We're just so drawn to, I get what you're saying. At least I think of family time as like time at the dinner table, right?
Time at the dinner table, or we're all sitting in like the living room watching the game. Like,
it's very rare, and I think like sometimes you do get it in a Thanksgiving or Christmas type holiday. But I feel like other than those times of year, it's pretty rare. Yeah. It's very rare, and there's when you do have those moments, whether it's with friends or family or just other people you care about, it's kind of nice. You kind of like you leave that moment where it's like, whoa, like that was cool. Like I do like going to places camping or trips where there's no reception, because it kind of forces you to be present. And my parents took me on a lot of those too, but it was when I was young. I don't know. So like there's weird times where I blank out. Do you blank out on things that happened in your childhood? Yeah. Wait, I've learned that I'm remembering a lot more of the bad things, because that's what I tended to do too. Yeah. It was like just remembering all those bad things that happened, and because I don't want to, knock my parents or anything. Like they provided for me. They've always kept a roof over my head. They've always did everything that they needed to do as parents. But there were certain things that they did too much of that I feel like they weren't doing it out of a bad heart. They were doing it, coming from a good place, but not realizing what was going on in current time, being that, maybe I needed somebody to talk to, because, like I said, I had anxiety attacks when I was a kid and things of that nature, and it's just like certain things I didn't know how to respond to as a kid, and I feel like that's why I became such a people watcher when I was young. Yeah. It's just something that, like, I'm constantly learning from other people or other things going on around me, and that's just something I wanted to ask you. I get curious to see, how people feel about families and things like that. Yeah. Yeah, my family structure was pretty interesting too, because we never, at least compared to my cousins and even a lot of my friends, like we never had a lot of like the designer, nicer clothes, nicer shoes. We didn't have like nothing, like they always provided the basics, but that's what it was. And I remember times like my sister and I would get impatient sometimes. We'd kind of be like, hey, like when you're a kid and you see your cousins or your friends flexing or whatever, and social media wasn't around back then, but there's still ways they can kind of like influence you to want. Well, you're in school, so you're always around kids, right? And so there's always those conversations I had with my parents, but my parents kept it real with me. That's one thing I appreciated when I was younger, because I would ask, hey, how come my cousin gets the new GameCube, or how come he gets the new that all the new toys, blah blah blah. But I know, like, at least in this one cousin's case, his mom was very, like, almost never present in his life, She kind of left him at his grandma's, and that was it, and she kind of, like, one day, I think she was kind of impatient, or, tired of us asking that kind of stuff. She was like, would you rather, spend time with those toys or whatever, or would you rather spend time with me and your dad? Yeah. And I know, I felt like we always had, while we didn't have a lot, we always had like loving family support. That's good. And as I got older, that's what made it more challenging, and that's why I faced like some difficulties, because we never had a lot financially. I was fine with that, and that's why I'm like kind of a minimalist. But as things got rougher in between my parents' relationship and the whole family structure kind of got damaged, it really kind of was like, well, what do we have now? Like, we don't even have like the loving family structure. There's no support. We're not hanging out anymore. this is not the same as it used to be. So it's like, now what do we have, you know?
Yeah.
And so I don't know, it definitely, you know, it faded, but I think at its core there's
And then-
still some moments in the beginning of my childhood where I remember my parents did a really good job of.
Yeah, but I definitely feel you heavily too on what you, because you're going through what I was going through when I was like around 16.
Yeah.
You know, you had briefly told me, but it's just you started, and that's when I feel like that's when my mental health issues started coming into play the most, because I was looking back on, like you said, you start marinating on the bad times, and that's all you're thinking about. But now that I'm sort of coming out of it, I do recognize that there were good times, and that they did provide for me the best they could. And I think a lot of it was me just feeling sorry for myself. And I just had this talk with my mom, because our relationship was a tad bit rocky. And I think we were both just trying to figure out what we could have done better, or we were picking on each other, like, you should have done this, or I should have done that for her.
Yeah.
And I think we just dramatically stopped. It was weird. It was almost like a movie, and we're like, we were dealt these cards.
Yeah.
And we just got to deal with it, and you got to move on from there. And that was really what helped me move on from the whole thing. It's just like, you got to, like I said, going back to earlier, you got to have those lessons that you have to have those hard times that you turn into lessons. And until you learn the lesson from that hard time, you won't be able to move past it.
Yeah.
So I think that was just a real, milestone, or whatever it may be.
Yeah. And I think too, it's like learning not only from like past lessons, but as well as like learning, like seeking out, I guess it's also understanding whether it's teachers, parents, anybody like that we kind of idolize as kids, they don't have all the answers, right?
Yeah.
Like you said, they were kind of dealt the cards that they were dealt, and sometimes it looks like they have it together, right? We think most of our teachers had it together, and then something shit might happen,
Yeah.
I remember, like, I had one community college professor where I remember playing football. They had a recommendation of like easier professors, right? That was a little easier to get through for the football players, because especially if you struggle with grades. So I remember I took one of them thinking like, all right, this is gonna be a chill class. It was a communications class, interpersonal communications. But she had just gone through a divorce that previous summer, or like they had started the process of a divorce, and like I was like maybe in that class for 5-6 weeks, but it was awful. Like she was taking out all her anger and her emotions kind of out on us, and I was kind of like, whoa, like. What's going on? And I remember I had to drop that class, but I guess that's what I could kind of relate it to. And I think, same thing with our parents, whatever they were going through, they might have held it together for a certain part, and then after a while it's kind of like, oh shit, like I'm barely holding on, and this is affecting my child, who I wish, they probably wish we didn't have to go through that, but at the end of the day, they're trying to do what's best for them too.
So as a kid, you see your parents as basically superheroes.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest flaw that a parent can have is keeping that, making your kid think that you're a superhero.
Right.
Let him think that, but reassure him that you are not perfect.
Yeah.
That the things you do are not always going to be correct. Reassure them that I am going to contradict myself. I'm not always going to give you the right lessons. I'm not always going to make the best choice. And if you keep it real with the kids, it's way better, because then they're not sitting there doubting that their superhero like fell. You feel me? Like you're keeping it human. Like people need to understand that we are just human, and we're gonna be imperfect. And that's just what the fuck's gonna happen. It's just our natural thing to do.
Yeah.
And
100%.
I just don't think. I mean, obviously, fathers, a lot of them have that, male figure, so it's like I don't know, at least with my father, I felt like he portrayed himself as, like, always right. He has admitted to his mistakes in the past, but just parents in general, they feel like they're right a lot, and I just don't want to ever make my, like, downplay. If I do have kids, downplay what they're saying. Like, you need to really take in what they're saying and not say, oh, you're wrong for saying that. Say, maybe this could work. But, maybe you are right.
Right.
And work from that. And I don't know. I think it would just be a really good thing for parents to know. I mean, if you got any parents that are watching this podcast.
Yeah, no, I think it's crazy. Like, I mean, there is parenting classes and there is like that, but that's all optional, right?
Yeah.
Like, and I think, you know, there are like a good amount of, you know, probably like, if you probably guess a percentage, probably like 20% of parents do stuff like that. But I mean, there's a large chunk that either don't have the resources, don't have the time, there's an unplanned kid, like all that kind of stuff, or they rush into it, like, you know what I mean? Where it's just, they don't have the availability or that knowledge of parenting. But there's definitely, I think, like, you know, that could be something that's implemented. You know, I'm really big on like pushing and changing like the school curriculum. But I think that's important, you know, like whether obviously like in high school kids aren't thinking about having kids, but it's good to just have that knowledge regardless, because if you do want to have kids, whether it's at 19 or 30, like,
or if it's unexpected,
you kind of have at least some basic knowledge. Because I don't know, I mean, there's like home ec, right? And I remember like that's an elective, but I never took it. So, you know, for the people who never took home ec, and it wasn't all just having kids stuff. It was a lot of like, you know, sewing, and cooking, and all that kind of stuff. So it was like a large portion of things. But definitely there needs to be more education on like how to
we need to redo
kids.
the whole educational system as a whole. But I mean, we could go a whole nother podcast on that. That it's just, like I said, we're being the way we're programmed right now is not the way we need to be programmed in order to live a happy life. Because right now, I mean, especially in our current state, everything is, anxiety is at an all-time high, mental health is at an all-time high. Like,
and I fear because like
mental health is at an all-time low right now. Like, it's nuts. And if we don't change something in the world now that, you know, helps us not live necessarily a smarter life, but a happier life,
more efficient life.
Like, I don't see anything getting better anytime soon, but I'll be optimistic because that's just me.
And I try. I know one thing I've been pretty pessimistic about is that like the anxiety getting higher and mental health getting lower is during the election. You know, that's like right around the corner, and you know, I don't care who wins. I just think regardless of who wins, there's just going to be a lot more hate spewed, and like it's almost like you said, kind of like the higher ups are kind of, they're probably laughing at this, you know, because you know, no one's winning in this. It doesn't matter if you're Democrat, Republican, left, right, pro this, pro that. Like, you know, it's all like at the end of the day, we're all losing because like they're getting the last laugh and they're kind of running the country, and they're kind of like the ones who are comfortable. And you know, I don't know. I just think like the pandemic's brought to light about a lot of shitty stuff, and that's probably one of the shittiest ones. Is like how much politics is hated, or like it spreads hate. You know, like almost like if it was like fan bases, you know, like you got, you know, different political parties hating people like if they were like rivals, like the Raiders and Chiefs, you know.
And now it's everywhere you look because everybody's on social media too, and you have all those random like
keep spreading.
Just, I don't know. That's why I told you I stopped on Twitter. I'm back on it now, and all of my stuff is just usually just shit you can laugh at or things of that nature. Or Steelers. But it's just, we're, like I said, I'll go back to it again. We're being programmed to see all of these things all the time, and we're spreading the message of hate more than anything. And it's sad. Like, people just need to chill out.
Chill down.
And the most simplest, dumbest way to say it, people just need to chill out for like a day or two, and just take some time to think about it. Like, take some time to think about definitely more. I was just giving the people an opportunity, but they just need, I don't know, people aren't willing to look at things from every different angle, aren't willing to accept when they are wrong. And like I said, we're all human, so that's always gonna happen. But I mean, I'm trying to do my little due diligence, and with the whole new job coming up, you saw that we put on the back, I think I love myself. And I just want it to be a time for people to, you know, on this drop, it's because like I said, I lost a lot of confidence on this last drop because we didn't sell as much as I thought we were going to. I think I love myself is going to be on the next drop. That'll be coming out during the winter time. No guaranteed month, especially with everything going on. I don't want to put time limits on it. But that'll be coming out, and I think that is just my little message to myself and to others, like, to gain your confidence back. Not ego, but confidence.
Yeah.
And we should all have a little bit of confidence and happiness in ourselves. And I also feel like that would stop, like, the hate and other things, because, or the jealousy, because that stems from hate. And it's like, I don't know, the clothing brand, it's working its way in me.
Yeah.
And it's crazy how it's working. Like, the thing, because I thought about that before I thought about the message behind it. My little thing was, it was just, you know, it was something like it came to mind when I had gotten out of therapy. Mm-hmm. It was like, fuck, like, I'm really happy with myself right now.
Yeah.
Like, I'm fucking with myself. It sounds egotistical, but
you have to have some sort of confidence, right?
Yes, exactly. Level. And it's not being why am I? Oh, conceited. It's not being conceited. It's being confident. Like, and even if you have to take the step to be conceited in order to be confident first, I mean, make sure you're doing it right, because you can be conceited, but that can stem from insecurity.
Yeah.
So just be confident in yourself, you know, and love yourself, and that's what I really want people to get out of this next drop. And I mean, shit, if nobody buys that, I'll come out with another thing, and we'll keep going. But yeah.
No, just keep spreading the message, man. You know, like, just, I know, you know, things didn't go as planned, like, in the beginning, but, you know, whether it's 2 months later things start selling out, you know, like, that's still progress, you know. You just keep pushing the message. I know it can get difficult at times, but
and even though it didn't do good, because, like, we're giving the proceeds to her, to my cousin, and even though it didn't do good, and, you know, we may not have been able to give her that, I got to get that moment with my cousin where I saw that it had made her happy, and it had, you know, she knew that somebody at least was fighting for her. So that was the biggest blessing that came out of it. Like, like I said, lessons always come out of hard times. Yeah. And I learned that lesson, and that's what helped me get out of the funk, because I sort of had a creative block too, like, because I was just going through, like, this whole little down swirl in my head. But like I said, I'm in a real positive outlook right now. Things are going good. Yeah. This weather's changing too, so it's not going to be hot. Everybody's not going to be on edge and shit.
So I love it. Yeah. And just relating back to what you just said too, I think it's cool, because, like, I always relate back to this J. Cole lyric where he's talking about in the song High for Hours how he has a friend or buddy. I kind of combined the two words. That's all. He has a buddy that wants to make music, or he is making music, but he wants to pop off like J. Cole. You know what I mean? He kind of talking about that in his rap. Is like, his buddy wants to be big time. He doesn't realize that even if you only have, like, 10 listeners, like, if you can relate with, like, 2 of those listeners, that's like 2 people that, like, if you never put out any artwork, like, 2 people that you never
would have never helped.
Yeah, exactly. Helped. And I think, you know, constantly reminding myself that is, like, I've kind of seen my podcast numbers go down since the pandemic started, whether it's people's routines or not listening to podcasts as much. But I still get, like, nice messages from, like, people that saying, like, whoa, like, this really helped me. This episode's really cool. Messages from my students, former students, you know, family members, people that I haven't seen in a while, like old high school friends.
It's hard too, though, with, like, the route we took, because podcasts, obviously, you know, there are a bunch of podcasts and a bunch of highly successful ones. And with me, clothing, obviously, there's a bunch of highly successful clothing brands. And I think, I mean, obviously, that's why we connect good, and that's why I hit you up and shit like that. It's like, we helped each other out, not even really knowing, you feel me? And it's a beautiful thing, like, and that's, I guess, what comes from people with good hearts, like, and even what I was saying about teaching your kids that, like, we have to teach ourselves that too, like, we can't have that, you know, we can't feel like we're superheroes, because we're not, we're flawed. And that's the beauty in life. I mean, that is life.
That'd be good, like, a little slogan. I'm human and I'm flawed.
Yeah.
Some shit like that.
We might have to hop on
like
it. Oh, we got to get our stuff too.
Yeah.
I mean, we could talk about that off the podcast, but yeah, I still have my design ready to go. Okay. Actually.
All right, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, before we wrap things up, you have anything else you want to plug, where you can find your website, that kind of stuff?
Yeah. I will put by the time this comes out, the website will already be back online. I have to do a little count, but website is www.scoundrelsupply.com. That's SCOUNDRELSSUPPLY.com. Instagram is at Scoundrels Supply, or it's at Scoundrels_Supply. And that's going to be our Instagram. We will have a promotional video for the winter drop, and it's up in the air right now, but I'm not sure when you're going to put this out. But if you do land up putting it out before this date, we could possibly be in downtown Santa Ana. There's like a little farmer's market going on down there.
Okay.
So we'll be out there November 7th.
Okay, dope. Right on, man. Thank you again for being on the show.
No problem, G. Ooh.